Well, I'd like to welcome Jim Fannin, who is America's Zone Coach. We'll learn what that means in a second. He's a mental performance coach for champions in nearly a dozen sports, from golf to tennis to basketball to baseball. He even coached this crazy poker player that's interviewing him right now. And Jim, welcome. We're talking at 5 p.m. Jordan Spieth has just finished the ninth hole. He's 4 shots behind Jason Day. By the time people see this tonight, the tournament will be over. Whether or not Jordan Spieth wins, he has pulled off an incredible year. And I call him a kid. I can call him a kid because I have a daughter his age, and find it just extraordinary that a 21-year-old has such mental toughness. And we talk about mental toughness in all sports, but it would seem that golf is particularly one that has the greatest, most significant mental dimension. And if you can kind of explain why he is so, what is so special about him, what he does or who he is that makes him such a champion at such an early age, and how we can emulate that.
Well, I need to go through a few basics. First of all, I'm glad to be on your show. And anything to do with Kentucky, I'm in. First of all, the average person has 2, maybe 3,000 thoughts every day. When an athlete or an individual is clicking on all cylinders, they've reduced that to 30 to 40%. And so they're not going into the past. They're not analyzing, evaluating everything they do. They've reduced those thoughts from the typical person's thoughts. And their mind's not off into the future. They're not ahead of themselves. So person that really is in a zone state, that day, the whole day, even though a round of golf is only 5 or 6 hours, that day they're probably 80% of their thoughts are fully engaged in the moment on the task at hand. So what Jordan has done is pretty amazing for somebody that young. He's trained his brain to hold off thoughts that be normal to pop into your head. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, to instantly evaluate a shot before you go on to the next. And he's able to just dismiss one shot after another. His battle cry, and most champions' battle cry is next, next shot, next target. And when you look at a major, you got to hold your focus for 22 hours, 24 hours, over 4 days. And I'm throwing in a little bit extra because you need to focus while you're on the range. You better focus when you sign your card, so you definitely do sign your card. But, yeah, what he's done this year has been pretty amazing, and he's playing like a 35-year-old seasoned veteran, not some young 21-year-old.
Let's talk about another former young 21-year-old who was at the top of his game. He was a little bit older than Jordan Spieth when Tiger Woods made his incredible run. We now know what's happened. He has missed the cut in 3 of this year's majors. His game has taken a big hit. It shouldn't be. It would have to be the biggest coincidence in the world that his decline began when he went through his sex scandal crisis. What's your insight on what has happened to him, and from a mental performance standpoint, do you think he'll ever be able to turn it around?
I think he's looking in the wrong place. I think he needs to look in the mirror. That's a pretty blunt statement on my part. I think he's looking at his swing. When Tiger beat DeMarco at the Masters, and my memory doesn't remember exactly that year, the people watching may remember that. I was there. Luke Donald, who I was coaching, finished 3rd in that tournament. He was all over the place. He was in the rough a lot. But mentally, no one was tougher than Tiger Woods. No one. Really, maybe the toughest athlete of his time. That's really, I think, undeniable. His vision of what he wanted in his life, I believe that was ordained when he was a little kid. That was to break Jack Nicklaus's record. Stories are told, and I believe he has even said that Nicklaus's record was on the head of his head, on his bed. all of Nicklaus's majors, and that was really his quest, was to be the best of all time. Once your future's pretty well set, well, now you can spend a lot of time in the moment, and he did that. Of course, when you go out and have extracurricular activities that you shouldn't be because you're married, you can't have any guilt if you're not in the past. And when you've got someone that's locked into the moment, the majority of his waking hours, you can get away with that for a while. All of a sudden, that scandal happened. The media really came in. The media's good, the media's bad, the media doesn't care. They just want to write a good story. And they really came in and unlocked his past. Why'd you do this? What was going on? And now he's bouncing between the future and the past. Every media question is about the past, it's about the future. So trying to stay in the moment right now for Tiger Woods, that's his biggest challenge. And unless he can get back into a performer that is in the moment, with no judge, no victim, and doesn't really care what happened a minute ago, much less 5 days ago or 5 years ago, unless he can do that, well, he's going to continue to post these kinds of results. I would really guess that 60, 70% of his thoughts are in the future and the past, and he's having fewer thoughts in the moment. I would also, I know Chris Como, I know his swing coach, I know his agent, I know Tiger. I've walked the course with Tiger many, many times when I was coaching Charles Howell. Staying in the moment, I think that's tough. On your way up, as you're ascending peak performance at the top of the world, well, that's one paradigm, and that's not easy. But staying there, now that's a whole paradigm shift because everybody wants a piece of you. They want your time. They want to know what happened. He's got to get back to being in the moment. That's a very selfish place to be, but that's where he was, and that's when he ruled.
Do you think it's possible, or is it too late for Tiger?
Well, I don't think it's too late. I coached Alex Rodriguez from 1996 to 2010. I talked to him every day. I left him in 2010. Not real happy about what he did, and it is what it is. So that happened. However, I did meet with him in 2014, talking about getting ready, when his suspension and all that, and how he could do it. 40 years old, hip replacement, most vilified athlete next to Lance Armstrong and maybe a few other people. He's having a pretty great season right now for a 40-year-old. Can Tiger do this? Absolutely. But, it's one thing or another with Tiger. It's his glutes, it's his swing, it's his putting, it's his chipping. And I will tell you, when he was at his best in 2000, 2001, those years when he just really intimidated people, his peers, if he needed a putt, he made it. And, if a guy shoots 70 on the PGA Tour, just anywhere, shoots 70, and he has 28 putts, well, do the math on what's the percentage of putts per the total number of shots. Quite a bit. I suspect he's not working on his short game anywhere near he is his swing. I'd get back to what made him great. I'd work on that short game, unbelievable. I'd get back to being in the moment. I'd quit analyzing every swing, that's for sure. You got to throw that out the window. And start threading present tense moments over time. Can he do it? Absolutely can do it. Will he do it? Well, I think he's looking in the wrong place. I've even reached out to him, but I could help a guy like that. But you got to put down your ego, look and see what's really going on here. Is it really my swing? I don't think it is. I think get back to being the strongest mental player on the planet, and Tiger will. He's got a lot of great golf left in it.
You mentioned the short game. When I think of putting, out of any exercise in any sport, that seems to draw the most choking. the free throw line, the when field goal kicks. Those are the moments that seem frozen. You've got a lot of time to think about it. What's happening when someone's choking? And our website focuses more on football and basketball. Let's look at what Pete Carroll's call on the goal line in the Super Bowl and not running the ball, and it was that choking. And for closer to home, Andrew Harrison's inability to get the ball into the hands of a shooter before the shot clock ran out. What's going on in those minds, and how can those players excel differently?
Well, the average person walking around has 15 to 17 breaths per minute. I mean, right now, you and I are probably having that many. People watching this are having 15 to 17 breaths a minute. When you start overthinking the situation, throwing a little bit of stress, that can reach up to 20. And you get it past 20, your whole body starts to change. Serotonin starts to change. Instead of having an unhinged jaw, it'll start to tense up. You tense up your jaw, you'll change grip pressure. You won't hold the basketball the same. If you look at most free throws, when they're missed, it's the first one. Well, they've been running up and down the court. They've got the breathing really high. Then after they miss that first one, a little more time's elapsed. They get the breathing down into the 6 to 8 breath a minute. And now they're going to have a little more fine motor skills. Their jaw's going to be a little more unhinged, and they'll have better touch. So breathing is the key, and you need to learn how to breathe when the money's on the table and when the pressure's at its greatest. The best in the world, when they're locked in the zone, they have 6 to 8 breaths a minute. And I'll challenge all the people viewing right now. Time yourself. See if you can get your breathing to 6 to 8 breaths in 1 minute. And I promise you, as soon as you do that, it's going to be the most relaxed you've been all day. Your shoulders will relax. Your jaw will unhinge. But boy, when you're clicking on all cylinders in sports or in business or anything, you're breathing, getting more oxygen. You're going to have more clarity. You make better decisions. You definitely won't overthink. You won't be going into the past. You start going into the past thinking about a negative, your breathing will increase because of that. So your thoughts and your breathing, they're correlated. And of course, when you get too stressed out, too much breathing, it'll tense up your fine motor skills, your hands, grip pressure on the club. That's how you push a putt or pull a putt. That's when you don't really follow through on the free throw. And that's when you probably start your routine kicking a field goal maybe a little bit too soon. You got that feeling you need to do something. Well, that feeling comes from 20 plus breaths a minute. Be cool, slow it down, know what that is to have 6 to 8 breaths, have self-awareness, and you're going to execute the basics much, much better.
I know you like me, and pretty much everybody watching this is a big fan of Coach Cal, and there are few people who are better motivators and better recruiters than he is. What kind of advice would you give him going into this season? He's going to have a team that's similar than last year, that's going to 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time, have the most talent on the court. But as we saw in the Wisconsin game, sometimes talent doesn't always win. How should he approach this season? If there's anything different that he should do in the locker room during training before the season that he did last year that could help us get to the championship better?
Well, I think he's been genius in preparing for the postseason. That's really where he has excelled, getting a team ready. I would accentuate that, maybe take that to another level. There will be pressure to win the SEC. There always is. That's going to be pressure, even though there'll be favorites. But the NCAA, one mistake, you're done. That's pressure. One missed free throw, one missed called timeout. This goes with coaches as well. Again, I'd work on sprinting, and then seeing if they can get their breathing down to 6 to 8 before shooting a free throw. I'd do that. That's working on pressure. I've done that with a lot of teams. I did this with one of Dr. Rivers' teams that I was working with great NBA coach, and just start talking about stress. It's all about stress management. A young kid coming out of high school, he has no clue about Kentucky basketball. He might think he does. He has no clue. I don't think there's another better fan base. I'm one of them. I can raise my hand. I'm one of them. I don't think there's more pressure. It's win or we had a bad season. And, that's pretty unusual. Learn how to manage stress. I talk about it first day of practice. I talk about stress.
So most of our, I would say 99.9% of our readers are not going to be professional athletes or intercollegiate athletes. We're big sports fans, but we are in a lot of different professions. And what a lot of folks don't know about you is, in addition to being a sports coach, you're a life coach as well. You've coached many dozens of prominent CEOs. Your latest book is about relationships. So what kind of advice do you give to the average schmo like me in when we're talking about wanting to succeed in our business or in our careers or in our relationships? How does this zone philosophy apply to the regular person?
Well, there's 5 markers that I discovered in the mid-'70s, and those markers are still applicable today for anyone, regardless of your age or your vocation or even your experience. Those 5 markers are self-discipline. That self-discipline is probably the toughest one. It's first in anyone being successful. That's a commitment, a willingness to stay with routines, to reach well-defined goals, measurable goals that take you to a vision, something that you would like to attain over some period of time. Self-discipline is the only form of discipline. That's the first thing I would do with anybody. What do you want? Why am I here? And when do you want it? What are your intentions? What's the purpose? I really get into that with any client. So self-discipline is the first marker. Now that creates cortisol, actually a chemical we all have in our bodies, to help you narrow your focus. And that's the second marker, concentration. Be able to put blinders on and really focus on the task at hand. Quit looking around at all the shiny objects in your business or trying to dig too many income streams, trying to do too many things in your life. Focus on one thing and do it really well. The world is looking for experts. So I look at people and say, be an expert at something, and you're always going to be successful. Concentration is the second marker. The third one, boy, it's right in the middle of every one of us. That's our belief system. That's optimism. Just like a lot of people believe they can win on the PGA Tour. I've helped 10 people win their first tournament. And one of the toughest, maybe the toughest event to win is your first PGA event. Belief's one thing, but you need more than that. Belief by itself is not good enough. You need expectancy. And the more you can flood your mind with seeing it in completed state, you can get into a sense of knowing. That takes repetition. That takes selling you on you. And then the other 2 markers are just as important. Unfortunately, a lot of people leave these out. It's too bad. But relaxation and being comfortable with the routines and taking some time off every now and then. There's a great quote by Lincoln: at 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 2 hours sharpening my axe. That's pretty. I wish that was my quote. That's pretty profound for Honest Abe. A lot of people are chopping the tree in their business and their family with a dull axe. Turn your brain off and just breathe, chill out. And then last is enjoyment. That's a marker that every champion has. We all have that. You got to love what you do, and you got to do what you love, and you got to love the process, not just the end result. We all like the dessert, but you got to love the process. It gets you up in the morning, puts you to bed at night. You get these 5 markers managed on a daily basis at a reasonably high level. that zone will come in and help you in your business. It's going to help you in your relationship. And what I found is once you understand the basics, you can start making decisions in 90 seconds or less. 90 seconds to a great relationship. I've got a dozen tools in there. You want to take your relationship to the next level? You know, all these athletes and all these CEOs I've coached, well, if their spouse wasn't happy and they didn't have a great relationship, they're going to have trouble. There's a lot of adages talked about regarding your significant other.
Amen.
And then I've got a new program coming out in the fall. I'm excited. 90 seconds to maximize profits. So this applies to everybody, and anybody can get into the zone state. We've all been in it in school and sometimes in business, and why not live in it every day? That'd be the best.
So I got 90 seconds left, to use your phrase. Got a lot of golfers that read this site. None of us will be in the majors. A few of us will actually win a tournament, but let's imagine we're on 18 lining up a putt to win a $10 bet, or at least win the pride of your foursome. What advice do you give to somebody to get into that zone for that 10-foot putt that you know you can make, but your hands are shaking and you're afraid you're going to choke?
I'll give you a little 10-second tip. You can shut your eyes real quick, unhinge your jaw, just turn your brain off. Turn it off before you actually address the putt. Just clear your mind. No future, no past. Your goal is to make the present last. Look for a toothpick-size target within the cup. Unhinge your jaw. Step up and roll it. And less thought. And if you're overthinking it, abort, back up, reboot again.
Well, great. Thank you, Jim Fannin, America's Zone Coach, for joining us today. And check out jimfannin.com for everything that we've talked about. Thanks.
Get in the zone. Talk to you later.